My name's Steve, and in today's project I'm going to show you my process for making some improvements to these LED light stick that I've purchased. There's really two things that I would like to utilize my 3D printer to make some enhancements, and one of those is to add a softbox. While this has a diffusion sheet on it, I like to have something a little further away from the lights to soften the light even more, give me a few options. The other is I would like to have the ability to rotate these lights. So while I can take and lower this, I have no way to twist it to direct it at the light. So I want to change the base of this to add the possibility to twist it. So let's get into it. So we have our 3D printed pieces. Each of these output with the 45-degree angle, so it will go behind the light stick. I do have some set screws that I did create that hole on the side for the set screw. I also have the mounting points for the twist and the turning part. This will go into the stand. This will connect on here using a bolt and a nut. That should give me the ability to turn while still being able to rotate the way the original light kit was set up to do. So the first thing I always like to do whenever I start trying to think of ideas, how can I make improvements, how do I go about doing that, what are some of the capabilities of the 3D printer, the limitations, I always start out by hand drawing my ideas and my thoughts and taking some different look at options, and just get everything marked down, get all of your measurements before you start getting into modeling. So I'm going to go into our 3D modeling application and let's see what we can come up with. And for this type of a thing, don't worry as much about the 3D software, the actual application that I'm using, but instead I like to keep everything with primitive objects, a few Boolean tools, a few bevel chamfer type tools, and that's really all I use. Very simplistic models, work very well on the 3D printer, and very functional for the type of application I'm trying to do. So the first thing I'll do is create a box that will represent the actual lights. So very simple, very basic, just get the dimensions from your light kit and create a box. Then we create another box on top of it, and this will represent the actual holder that's going to fit over the top and slide onto the back of the lights. So we want to make it slightly larger, and we want to move it so that it is on the back edge, so the front is open, because we're not going to need that. We want this to slide on top of the lights. So once we have everything lined up, we can use a Boolean to subtract the lights from the clip. And that will be a good fit then for that to slide over the lighting. Next, we want to create the 45-degree angle arm. Again, another box. We're going to line that up to the edge so we can do a rotate. I'll change the pivot point, rotate it 45 degrees, line it up to the other box. Then I'll create a duplicate. I'm going to do a mirror, which will mirror that to the other side of the object. So we have two of them. They're both identical. The next is to create another box. So as I mentioned, lots of primitive objects, just using the box tool at the moment. This will be a spot where the set screw, in case I need the set screw, I'll be able to have more plastic available. You need to make the object a little thicker with plastic so the screw has something to hold on to. So then I duplicate that, move it to the other side. This is the second Boolean object that I will use, in which I'm using the cylinder. The cylinder, I need to set that to the diameter of the set screw, and then I will remove that from the object, and that will leave the hole opening for the set screw. Once everything is merged together, I can then start going and adding a chamfer to some of the edges. This helps give a little more strength, and there you have the final object. So for the handle rotation, I've had to do a few other objects, but still sticking to primitive objects, sticking to all of the basic tools. I've created the bottom of this is actually going to be what fits into the existing handle mount. So I've taken a box, I've rounded the edges, I've gotten the dimensions off of the existing arm or mount that's already on the light, and then I duplicated it because up top I want to remove that from another box, and that's what the existing light handle is going to slide into. So the light handle is up here, that will slide into this outer box. You can see I have my bolt in between, and I opened up the bolt all the way through so that when I go to slide it in, it will fit down inside of here. So the actual width of the bolt is a little bit wider than the handle, and so I just need to accommodate that when I remove that with the Boolean tool. And then for the bottom piece, I have this part, which is the nut. I had to extend that so that when I remove that piece, I'll be able to drop the nut into this box for the 3D printed object. And then we've got the tube primitive object that we're using to remove the holes to put the bolt into place. So if we take this, I also added a box on the top to help for when this handle, so if this is the handle going through the actual light, it's going to extend up. That will help give it a little bit more support. Just to do a cutaway. So now as you can see by the inside, the handle slides in. Well, first the bolt will go in and sit just below the handle. So that will allow it to turn and tighten. But when the handle comes in, it will hold the bolt in place so it can't come back out. We've also got the hole to secure this top portion to the light handle. And on the bottom, you'll have the nut. The bolt will come through into the nut. That will allow me to rotate, and this bottom piece will then go into the existing handle. So now that we've got our model created, I'm going to take it over to the 3D printer. We're going to print it out, and let's see what we get. I have a few other odds and ends. I have hot glue gun, blue tape, very critical, but I also have my diffusion fabric. This I'll put a link in the description. You can purchase a fabric that is used for your diffusion material, and this is what I'm going to use to put over the top of the 3D printed parts once I get those on the light. I also have a wooden stick, and I'm going to use this to hold these together. So while all of these would be separate, I want to be able to remove this from the light if I don't need it, slide it back on the light when I want more of that soft light, and I'm going to use this along here to hold these together. So the first thing we're going to try before we get into the Softbox is the rotating handle. So this part here, first thing I want to do is I want to put the bolt inside. Slips all the way through. So now the bolt is in there. As you remember, I set the head of the bolt into the plastic. So now when it rotates the head, the bolt doesn't turn, but it does go up and down. And that's where this handle is going to hold that in place. So when I take this, slide it over the top, now the bolt stays in place. When I turn it, it all turns as one piece. I've also got the hole here so that I can put a bolt and a nut to hold this together. So I have a bolt and a nut. I'm going to slide that through. We're going to tighten that. And that's just to help give it some, so that if I do anything upside down, I don't have to worry about it. We added this lip here to give it some support. So now if I hang on to that, everything is very sturdy. The next part is the handle, and I'm going to take this off of the light stand. But this is the handle part that now we need this to go onto. But before we assemble it, we've got the nut. We created the opening for that to slide into, and now this bolt can go onto there. Twist it together, and I'm not going to put it real tight because you want to be able to have that ability to rotate them. But now that I have that together, I can take the original handle, put that on, tighten it. Before I could rotate it this way with the original, now I can rotate it at an angle. So definitely like the improvement of this that it gives me. So next up, we're going to take and get the softbox attached. So for the softbox, we've got these angled pieces cut out right to the size of the box. And what I'm going to do is those just fit right over the top. We're going to do 3 of them. 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, 1 in the middle. I've got my diffusion material that I will essentially just going to tape this onto the sides and tape it onto this other side so it will wrap around. But the first thing I want to do is do the hot glue gun and this stick. Okay, so now that we have everything glued together, you can see everything now is one piece, so I can slide it onto the light bar, take it off when I need to, and that way it's just usable whenever I need it for the different situations. So now we are going to take and attach our diffusion material. I'm just going to leave the ends hanging down, because if they overhang a little bit, that's not going to hurt anything from the light side of things. We're going to take this, try to get it semi-centered. It doesn't have to be perfect. For right now, I'm just going to tape these into place. Eventually, I will want to do a little bit of experimenting in which on the inside of these panels, on these angles, I may try to put some tinfoil. The tinfoil adds some additional reflection, possibly helping to brighten the lights a little bit, but I'm not sure if I'll need that. So to start with, I just want to do the diffusion material, see how that looks, and then go from there. So I've decided along the way that it was time to make a few changes, and before I went and finished everything and delayed the video, decided to cut in, show you some of the quick changes that I was making. No changes to the 3D models or the 3D print, but to the assembly of the softbox. So I decided to remove the one piece of wood along the back. Wasn't giving me quite enough support, so decided to take 2 pieces of wood, glue them to the outside edges, leaving the back where it is. So that gave me a little bit more stability. The other is that I am going to add some tinfoil. So if you take the tinfoil, I'm going to just wrap it to this inside. You can cut this to the length you need, to the width you need. I'm going to wrap the tinfoil, put some tape onto the edges, and then I am also going to double up the fabric. So after I did a quick test with the single layer of fabric, wasn't getting enough diffusion, enough of the softness, but when I put 2 on, it was reducing the amount of light. So I decided to go and put the tinfoil on. So we'll continue from there. Softbox. Now to make that work, we can slide that through. Now it'll be easier when this is on the actual stand, and instead of me trying to hold it. Bring it all the way down. But those will hold in place. That will hold in place. Now I am noticing when I did that, that's where the set screws come into place. So if I want, I can take the set screw, put that in one of the holes. That will hold it against the base so it doesn't move at all. So let's do a few experiments, do a few photos, and let's see what the difference is with the softbox and without the softbox.